Problem for Meghan and Harry is they've got nothing to offer other than their victimhood and the story they've now told. Their existence is a threat to the British royal family because they can only survive by damaging the royal family and saying negative things. And so, how does it end? What more damage can they do? What more can they threaten? How can they earn a living to support their very expensive lifestyle? That's the whole point. There's a car crash coming. Problem for Meghan and Harry is they've got nothing to offer other than their victimhood and the story they've now told. Their existence is a threat to the British royal family because they can only survive by damaging the royal family and saying negative things. And so, how does it end? What more damage can they do? What more can they threaten? How can they earn a living to support their very expensive lifestyle? That's the whole point. There's a car crash coming.
In 2020, they sold the world a billion-dollar dream. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were going to conquer Hollywood. They were going to rewrite the rules of modern royalty. They had the sympathy of the entire planet. And the biggest corporations on Earth lined up with blank checks.
Dude, you keep saying Meghan Markle, you know I'm Sussex now. I didn't know how meaningful it would be to me, but it just means so much.
But today, the money is gone. The mega deals have evaporated. The A-list celebrities have vanished. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are facing absolute, undeniable commercial exile. To understand why, you have to look at the explosive release of Tom Bower's 2026 biography, Betrayal. Bower did not just write a gossip book. He opened up the financial ledgers. He exposed the brutal, calculated reality of the Sussexes' post-royal business empire. He revealed that they weren't destroyed by a royal conspiracy. They were destroyed by a spreadsheet. For years, the public narrative was strategy versus silence. It was the Sussexes fighting the ancient British monarchy. But the real war was happening in the boardrooms of Los Angeles. And the Sussexes just lost their most powerful ally, return on investment. They thought their royal titles made them invincible. They thought Hollywood would fund their lifestyle forever. But Hollywood is a ruthless machine. It only cares about metrics. How did two of the most famous people on Earth become completely unemployable? How did a $100 million Netflix deal turn into total corporate isolation? And most importantly, how did their aggressive push for a global brand trigger their absolute financial collapse? The answer is a terrifying study in corporate self-sabotage. Because the truth is, the road hasn't just run out. The bridge is completely burned. To understand their total corporate collapse, you have to look at the mechanics of Hollywood power. In the entertainment industry, you are only as valuable as your next hit. When Harry and Meghan landed in California, they possessed the most valuable commodity on Earth: exclusive access. Netflix paid them millions to pull back the royal curtain. Spotify gave them a massive advance to spill their secrets. Penguin Random House bought Harry's memoir for a fortune. But the Sussexes made a fatal, arrogant miscalculation. They thought the money was for their talent. They genuinely believed Hollywood wanted them as visionary producers. They thought audiences wanted their lectures on compassion, climate change, and corporate wellness. But the numbers told a completely different, brutal story. The public only cared about one thing: the royal family. Whenever Harry and Meghan complained about the monarchy, the ratings skyrocketed. The tell-all Oprah interview broke records. The Harry and Meghan documentary was a massive hit. The book Spare sold millions of copies. But there is a fatal flaw in the Grievance business model. You eventually run out of secrets. Once you have sold all the family drama, what do you have left to sell? The answer, according to Tom Bower's devastating 2026 book, was absolutely nothing. The tactical blunder was trying to pivot from victims to lifestyle gurus. Meghan attempted to reinvent herself as a domestic goddess. She launched her brand, American Riviera Orchard. She tried to pivot to cooking shows and lifestyle products. But the market completely rejected it. Nobody wanted to buy jam from an exiled Duchess. The public was exhausted by the hypocrisy. You cannot demand absolute privacy and then try to sell the public a lifestyle brand. Hollywood executives started looking at the data. The non-royal projects were massive. embarrassing flops. The animated series was cancelled. The podcast was widely mocked. The Sussexes wanted to be the next Barack and Michelle Obama. They wanted to be global thought leaders. But the boardroom reality was brutal. They were essentially reality TV stars who refused to be on reality TV. By 2026, the executives realized the horrifying truth. The Sussexes didn't know how to produce content. They didn't know how to build a lasting brand. Their only product was their past. And that product had completely expired. To understand why Hollywood turned its back on them, we have to look at a historical blueprint. Harry and Meghan are not the first royals to abandon the crown for high society. To see their exact trajectory, you have to look back at the original rogue royals, King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. In 1936, Edward abdicated the British throne to marry an American divorcee. They were the ultimate scandalous celebrities of their era. When they first went into exile, they were the most sought-after couple in the world. They moved to France. They traveled to America. They dominated the global press. They believed they could maintain royal prestige without doing any of the royal work. It was the exact same arrogant delusion that fuels the Sussex brand today. But history is incredibly cruel to exiled kings. Edward and Wallis quickly realized that high society is incredibly fickle. At first, billionaires and celebrities wanted them at their parties. Proximity to an ex-king was the ultimate status symbol. But within a few years, the novelty completely wore off. Without the power of the British state behind him, Edward was no longer a king. He was just a wealthy, unemployed man in a very nice suit. The elite crowd slowly drifted away. The invitations stopped coming. The couple spent their final decades living in increasing irrelevance. They became a tragic, fading novelty act. This is the exact historical trap that Harry and Meghan walked right into. Hollywood operates on the exact same principles as 1930s high society. They love a shiny new toy. But if that toy doesn't generate massive profits, they will drop it without a second thought. The Sussexes completely misread the blueprint of power. They thought Hollywood royalty was a permanent status. They thought their A-list friends would protect them forever. But Hollywood royalty is an illusion. It is a transaction. It only lasts as long as your box office numbers stay high. When you step outside the shield of the British monarchy, you lose your institutional gravity. You trade a 1,000-year-old throne for a temporary spot on a red carpet. And Tom Bower's 2026 analysis proves that the Sussexes are repeating the Edward and Wallis tragedy step for step.
Meghan never intended to be a dutiful Duchess opening hospitals in Shropshire. She always intended to go back to Hollywood and use her title to pursue her career, and persuaded Harry, as I showed in this book, and they could only find happiness in California.
They thought they were building an empire. But history shows they were just throwing the world's most expensive retirement party. When the money dries up, the social power vanishes instantly. For years, Harry and Meghan relied on the ultimate Hollywood defense mechanism, the A-list shield. They had Oprah Winfrey defending them. They had Tyler Perry housing them. They were photographed with the biggest names in the entertainment industry. But in 2026, the strategy of their enemies changed. And those enemies weren't wearing crowns. They were wearing suits. In psychology, there is a tactic used to deal with toxic, attention-seeking people. It is called gray rocking. You don't fight back. You don't argue. You simply become as uninteresting and unresponsive as a gray rock. You starve the person of the friction they need to survive. We always talk about how the royal family used this tactic against Harry, but Tom Bower exposed a much more devastating reality. Hollywood started gray-rocking the Sussexes. The elite talent agencies, the billionaire CEOs, and the mega-celebrities simply stopped returning their calls. Look at the mechanics of this total institutional blackout. When the Sussexes first arrived, they were famous for leaking stories to the press. They used friendly journalists to settle scores. They publicly aired out private text messages from the royal family. They thought this proved they were powerful. But to the Hollywood elite, it proved they were a massive liability. The golden rule of the A-list is absolute discretion. Billionaires and megastars do not associate with people who might leak their private conversations to a Netflix documentary. So, the Hollywood elite closed ranks. They didn't put out press releases attacking Harry and Meghan. They didn't declare war. They just quietly erased them from the guest lists. The invites to the Oscars Vanity Fair party stopped. The Met Gala invitations vanished. The high-profile celebrity weddings happen without them. This is the most brutal form of corporate soft power. If an executive attacks you, you have a feud. You have a story to sell to the press. But if an executive simply ignores you, you have nothing. The Sussexes built their entire brand on being the center of the conversation. But Hollywood realized that engaging with them only brought negative PR. So the machine simply turned the lights off. They starved the Sussex brand of the one thing it needed to survive: proximity to actual power. You cannot force someone to be your friend. And in Hollywood, you cannot force someone to invest in a toxic asset. Follow the money. Because the math of the Montecito lifestyle is absolutely terrifying. The loss of public status in Hollywood instantly translates to a plummeting market value. And the Sussexes are burning through cash at a catastrophic rate. Let's look at the financial reality exposed in Bower's Betrayal.
They went there, and undoubtedly at the beginning it was absolutely brilliant, and they earned a lot of money, but they have now reached the point at which the price of betrayal of the royal family is, as I say, the end game, which is not rosy for them.
When they left the royal family, they signed contracts that sounded like infinite wealth. But Hollywood deals are entirely based on deliverables. You only get the full $100 million if you produce massive, viral hits. And the Sussexes completely failed to deliver. The commercial collapse started with Spotify. It was a massive, humiliating public execution. Netflix foundation began to crack. The streaming giant quietly started pulling back. They refused to greenlight the Sussexes' expensive, indulgent vanity projects. They realized that paying a massive premium for Meghan's cooking show was a catastrophic waste of capital. The Hollywood money train hit a brick wall. But the Sussexes' expenses never stopped. They live in a massive, multi-million-dollar mansion with an astronomical mortgage. They pay for extensive, elite private security teams. They employ an army of public relations managers, lawyers, and staff. That lifestyle requires millions of dollars in liquid cash every single year. When you are a working royal, the state pays those bills. When you are a Hollywood producer, your hit shows pay those bills. But what happens when you are neither? The commercial collapse is a simple equation of out-of-control spending and collapsing revenue. Without the Netflix megadeals, the Sussexes have no massive influx of capital. They are reduced to peddling boutique jams and scrambling for minor commercial endorsements. They traded the infinite wealth of the British crown for a Hollywood hustle, and they are losing the hustle. The corporate world looks at Harry and Meghan and sees a distressed asset. Their contracts are ending. The talent agencies are backing away quietly. They are watching their empire collapse in real time, and there is no royal bailout coming to save them. We are witnessing a permanent structural shift in modern celebrity culture. The explosive revelations of 2026 proved that the Sussex illusion is completely shattered. Harry and Meghan believed they could disrupt a 1,000-year-old monarchy. They thought they could reinvent the rules of global influence. They thought they were smarter than the palace. They thought they were more talented than Hollywood. They were disastrously, mathematically wrong. The British monarchy is moving forward without them. King Charles and Prince William have secured the institution. The public has moved on, and Hollywood is moving forward without them. The studios have found new talent. The algorithms have found new trends. The Sussexes are no longer a threat to the crown. They are no longer a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. They have been reduced to a corporate cautionary tale. They proved that you cannot build an empire on grievance. You cannot sustain a billion-dollar brand on complaining. Eventually, the audience gets bored. Eventually, the money runs out. This is the brutal reality of the ultimate realignment. The Sussexes burned every bridge they ever crossed. They demanded independence, but they forgot to build a foundation. They are now entirely isolated in a golden cage of their own making. And it leaves us with one final, haunting psychological question. You can run away from your country. You can declare war on your family. You can demand that the entire world look at you. But if your entire identity is built on fighting a war, what happens when your enemy simply walks away and takes all the money with them?